of our research is one of the programs that resulted from this collaboration. I'm very proud to be a part of this university because this university is a living monument, friendship between Indonesia and Japan. Okay, next I will give the opportunity to my colleague, Ms. Hayun, to introduce herself and continue the presentation.
Hi, arigatou gozaimasu, Hayun sensei. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for this good opportunity to present our research in front of you all. And I would like to introduce, my name is Hayun Nurdiniyah. You can call me Hayun. I am a lecturer at Department of Japanese Language and Culture, Darma Persada University, and I'm a graduate from University of Indonesia. First, I would like to explain our research background. Next, Hayun sensei. Yes, okay, as you can see from this table, this is a survey conducted by the Japan Foundation 2018. Based on the survey, we can see that Indonesia had become the second largest number of Japanese learners, the second largest number of Japanese language education, and the fourth largest number of Japanese teachers. But from this survey, we can conclude that there is still big gap between between Japanese language learners and Japanese language teachers, with the number of comparison is 1 to 122. And based on the survey also, we can see that there are still few numbers of native Japanese speaking teachers, which is only 21% of the total number of Japanese language teachers in the world. Next. Okay. So in this situation, it becomes difficult for students to get the opportunity to communicate and practice their Japanese language with native Japanese speaker. So this fact led us as a teacher and also as a facilitator to implement a group activity called online cross-cultural talk and presentation program. But due to the pandemic COVID-19, the activities conducted by online using Zoom cloud meeting. Okay, next sensei. Okay. There are several previous studies related to culture exchange program. In the article conducted by Ujitani, investigated the impact of culture exchange program in Korea and Indonesia. And focusing on Japanese university students' communication competence and assessment of the effectiveness of intercultural communication competence using the cross-cultural adaptability inventory. And then qualitative data was collected from open-ended pre- and post-questionnaires and also conducting a group interview. The result of this study indicates that the short culture exchange program in Asia had a major impact on development of Japanese participants in intercultural communication competence. And the second one is in similar study, Sanker examined the effects of participation in virtual cross-cultural on students' interest in learning about culture. And qualitative and quantitative data were collected from survey, email transcript, and video conference. So the result revealed that the participants were highly interested in learning about culture in the foreign language classroom, and such virtual activity is an example of how language classes can be implemented to integrate language and culture learning. Moreover, how culture can be present in an attractive way to maintain high levels of interest and hopefully can motivate learner to continue to study. And the finding also have important implication for curriculum design and instruction. And the third one is to enhance participant intercultural competence. Iwasaki also conducted a study, particularly on distance education using ICT. This activity involved Japanese language learners from 3 different countries, such as China, Korea, and Sweden, and native Japanese speakers. Iwasaki used pre and post questionnaires. The result of this study showed that this activity helped participants improving their communication, competence, and knowledge about their own culture and other cultures, as well as changing their attitude toward different culture. So in this study, we are using qualitative data, and the effect of cultural exchange program on students will be investigated. The research question is whether the participant in cultural exchange program will exhibit motivation in the Japanese language and culture learning. Next, Sensei. Okay. This research used qualitative analysis to answer the research question. Data were collected first by distributing online questionnaire. Actually, we distribute to more than 25 participants, but due to the deadline, we only received 25 respondents. And the questionnaire consists of 6 Likert scale items and open-ended questionnaires. The second one is we conducted reflecting and evaluation through group interview. We can see on the right side that so that the participant of cross-cultural activities are students who majoring in the Japanese language and culture from various academic years. Next, Sensei. Okay. Several cross-cultural activities already have been implemented in our university, and these activities are in collaboration with several Japanese institutions like Toyo University, Hiroshima University, and also Japanese institution in Indonesia. And this activity is about discussion and presentation related to themes such as language, society, culture, for example, traditional culinary, tourism, sport, hometown, student life, social problems in Indonesia and Japan, and so on. And then the student who participate in this, the student participate more than one activity. So we can see on the right side is the description of the activities in general. First, the moderator lead the event and explain about the activity. And then the second one is discussion session. The discussion is divided into group and conducted in the breakout room. And the participant who is appointed as leader group will lead the discussion. And the third, the participant return to the main session, and the group leader present the result discussion. After all leader present their result discussion, enter to Q&A session, and also the moderator will summarize the result discussion. And the last is closing. During this session, participants can share their impression, suggestion, feedback about the activity, and also they can share obstacles they faced during the activity. The next will be presented by Hayun sensei. Dozo.
はい、ありがとうございます。Okay. From this section, we will describe our research findings based on the questions posed to the respondents through a questionnaire. The first question is, what are your motivations for participating in cultural exchange activities? From this question, we get that all the motivations of the respondents are intrinsic motivation. This motivation is motivation that comes from the respondent's own thought or from within the respondent. The motivations are respondents want to build a network with native Japanese speakers. Then the respondents want to have a better understanding of Japanese culture. Then the respondents want to develop their conversational skills in Japanese, get vocabulary, and more. Then the most interesting part about this section is there are participants who wants to develop their communication skills in general. So they don't want to develop their communication skill in Japanese, but in general. Maybe this is one of the effects of the pandemic conditions that limit the respondent to interact with other people. Now, let's move on to our next questions. The next question is, did you gain new knowledge, such as language and culture, during online discussions? As you can see in this chart, 84% of the respondents answered that they gained new knowledge during online discussions. The new knowledge includes knowledge of the Japanese language, culture, or social. For example, respondents become aware of the daily lives of Japanese people. Respondents become aware of the current social condition of Japan, and so on. Okay, let's move on to the next questions. The next question is, what obstacles did you experience during the activities? From the results of the questionnaires, we found that the biggest obstacles faced by respondents were technical problems, such as problem with laptops, cell phones, or internet connections. Then there are 11 of respondents who experienced psychological problems, such as nervousness, like I do right now. I'm nervous, very nervous right now. Then there are 20% of respondents who experience language barriers, such as lack of vocabulary or Japanese sentence patterns, and so on. Okay, let's move on to the next questions. We also asked the respondents, do you think the discussion on cultural exchange activities with the native Japanese speaker can help improve your Japanese language skills? And the respondents respond to the question with positive answers. They said that they had a very good learning experience. Next, the next one is not a question, but a 6 Likert scale statement. As you can see in the chart on the right, most of the respondents state that they learn a lot about Japanese culture through online communication with native Japanese speaker. Next. Okay. The next statement is online communication with native Japanese speakers does not motivate me to learn the Japanese language. Most of the respondents state that they did not agree with the statement. This means most of the respondents think that online communication with native Japanese speakers motivates them to learn Japanese. Okay, next. The last one is online communication with Japanese speakers does not affect Japanese language skills. Here, we can also see the same thing in the previous chart. Most of the respondents think that online communication with native Japanese speakers affect their Japanese language skills. So to conclude, I'd like to say the implementation of online cultural exchange activities is quite effective to motivate learners to learn the Japanese language and culture outside class. And in the future, we would like to know in more detail about the respondents' achievements in their Japanese acquisition process. By describing these achievements, the result of these activities can be seen more clearly. Then, as facilitators, we also experience many obstacles. Then, in each discussion room, there is one person, moderator, who is in charge of directing the discussion in the breakout room, Zoom breakout room. Perhaps the moderator's action also affected the respondents' achievement. Based on these things, research related to the role of facilitators and moderators in this activity is also very important to follow up. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, I'd be happy to answer them now. This is our references, and thank you. ご清聴ありがとうございました。
Yeah, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. I think this is a very nice way. It gives us more chance to have the communication practice with the Japanese native speakers, and I think this is a yeah, you give it more chance because even when we cannot gather offline, so we can have a chances to practice Japanese. Yeah, please, if you have any questions, so you can raise your hand from the audience if you have any question. I would like to just clarify one point. Is it okay? How the participants can, apply for the program? How you were the participants in the program?
Okay, thank you for your questions. We make actually a form in a Google form, and we share the form through our colleagues in university and our colleagues send them to our students, so our students can register to be the participants through the online form.
So when they apply for the program, they've already have to some extent the interest to Japanese culture or something like that.
Yes. So the participants is actually our students in Japanese language and culture department. So they already learn about Japanese language and culture.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, let's go to our next